Church Function and Human Advertising for Jerome Edmonson Campaign for Dekalb County CEO. So this was a really fun experience for me. Um, so as far as undertaking new challenges and developing new skills, these actually occurred on two different dates, but I'm focusing on the human advertising one, or that's the one I used the date. Um, so between these two functions, I spent uh, 5 hours doing this, and it was really interesting. So I started with the church function. Some of these two different activities, some have different learning outcomes than others. But with the church function, which was my first ever campaign experience, was really fun. Persuasion and talking to people I was used to. I've been in student government before and had been there. We were trying to budget our money for different things and using my talking tactics to get what I wanted. I was used to that. Um, and so, as far as my strength, that was my strength. Um, and what I found is when talking to average people who are not, enthralled with politics like I am, it's important to add kind of a sentimental, kind of this familial, kind of this very human aspect to a campaign speech, to the campaign elevator speech, because most people don't want to sit here and hear you rattle off numbers and charts and things like that. So that within itself was somewhere where I saw that I needed to grow, but it allowed me to know that I am a fairly decent talker. So undertaking new challenges and developing new skills. So new challenge, I had never done this before. But developing the new skills, I want to make sure that I explain this one um, because I don't want there to be any confusion. The talking and persuasion was the outcome of increased awareness of your strengths and areas for growth. But following the candidate and being an aide and a helper, that was something totally new for me. In student government, whether I'm president or a council member or representative, the party starts, when Alexander shows up because he's so argumentative and all of this stuff. Well, in this, it wasn't about me. It wasn't really about the candidate either. It was about the people and trying to make effective change for these people. So, for the first time, I got to see a really human side of politics. Um, I got a greater understanding of grassroots campaigning because this is a county, not a nation, and so a lot of this was from church to church, function to function, going and meeting these people and greeting these people and letting them know why this candidate is the best candidate for the job. So that's amazing. That was amazing for me. Um, Working collaboratively with others in both cases, I had to work with other campaigners. The campaigner who I used as my supervisor, Melody Barron, she does um, training in business, basically how to make people more friendly in business, and that's where she had her longest stay, actually working for AT&T and Bell South and MCI over a course of many years. So learning from her how to approach people, how to greet people, was very good, and it was very fun. So human advertising, what I mean by human advertising is me holding a sign and waving, smiling and waving for an hour and a half. It was crazy. Um, I am extremely curious now as to see how effective that actually is, but nevertheless I did it, and there I had to work with others, new challenge. I'm not necessarily developing any new skills. I've been smiling and waving for quite a long time, but sitting there and smiling for so long and waving for so long on a very busy street. I was on the sidewalk. It was very fascinating. Now, considering the ethical implications comes into play because we weren't the only ones out there. There were other people out there. However, the one other person who was out there was actually campaigning for a judge, and not for DeKalb County, and not for DeKalb County CEO. Nevertheless, the ethical implications come in because we were right outside of the early voting place. So there are laws set in place that you cannot campaign within a certain diameter, within a certain perimeter or frame from the voting booths. But there's no law that says you can't do it right outside of that, um, law, that that uh, that perimeter. So it was really interesting, and I had to think: is this okay? And are we bending the law? Are we being moral in our decisions? And is it moral for us to be out here understanding that um, the purpose of this law is to ensure that voters are unbiased on their way to the voting booths? And two wrongs do not make a right. However, I do have a belief that in certain instances it's okay to fight fire with fire. And Ellis, who is the other one of the other candidates and the incumbent, one of the voting booths is in his office. His office is on the 6th floor, and the early voting place is on the 1st floor. Well, if the idea is that a candidate is not supposed to be able to campaign, however, to get out of the building, this man has to walk through the front door, or rather he wants to walk through the front door, which is his prerogative, then why why is it here? And the voting office simply said that they were going to cover up his pictures and things like that. And so you can cover up the man's picture, but if the man is there inside of the building because that's his office, then to me that's a greater problem than there just being pictures there. So when considering the ethical implications of politics, what I came to is you follow the law to the letter, and standing right outside of the law standing on the edge of it is not a bad thing, because it's all about getting your name out there and whatnot. So it was very interesting to me to have this as have this kind of thought going on in my head as I'm sitting out here standing and smiling. So those are the ethical implications, which, as you could probably see, really kind of took a toll on me, especially with myself, especially within myself, because I want to go into some form of politics, primarily international politics, not local politics. But nevertheless, this was something I had to think about. So I believe that I have covered all of that. Again, developing the new skills, making sure that it's the following and being an aid and not being the center of attention, and facilitating the shining and facilitating the lifting up and promotion of this man who is a family friend of ours who's running for DeKalb CEO. That was interesting and something new. So there it is, my church function in human advertising for Jerome Edmonson's campaign for DeKalb County CEO. Like always, after doing so many different music videos, I just decided to put on some piano music and end this at 10 minutes with a little bit of piano music.